Mm. Ma. Ma. Looking good so far. Alright, so I'm going to go through a couple more testing protocols on some consoles. Hope to get at least 2 done. The Burgundy console up here I did a couple days ago, so I'm just going to sort of put that on the bottom of the stack for now. Yeah, that's good. I'm just basically just going to go through a rotation of a stack that I have off to the side here, so this bronze one is the next. So, the bronze DSi LL, it does not have a back. I'm going to grab that real quick, because that will become an issue. Just have a little baggie full of back plates. And this back shell is in amazing shape, so I'm going to try and find one that's in equally amazing shape. This one looks like it will do it. Beautiful. So the LL is the Japanese exclusive sort of run, or at least the Japanese language run of the DSi XL. Functionally the same thing, but it is software locked in Japanese, which is a bit annoying, but current modding methods make it very easy to change the region to English. Let's see. So this will be the very first test this thing's gone through. Okay. Battery life 3 hours 50 minutes. It's respectable. Let me kind of get it set up here. Put 1, 2, 3 in the top corner just to get them ready for the hopefully only 3 testing rounds that I'm going to need for them. But we'll see. So let me grab a blank testing sheet. And what I'll be going through are just this column of tests right down here. Starting with the motherboard and power board. Now that's just essentially, does the thing turn on? Does it make it to the menu? Does it open applications? This will be a good time for me to note the software version as well, because I'll be opening the settings menu. .4J. Let me look at the screen again. Definitely the bottom screen's a little more blue than the top screen. And I've been wanting to try and test out a theory. So I don't know if it's based on like the batches of LCDs that come into Nintendo before they assembled these consoles, or if they do calibration software wise to a degree that I won't be able to do any testing. But there are the 2 variable resistors, the potentiometers right there. And they do allow for some amount of adjustment on the end user side, though this is all like probably done by machines and sensors. I was more wondering if it wouldn't change the colors at all if I were to adjust the potentiometers, but I really don't think that would actually alter the coloring of the screens. I'm just kind of doing some very slight rotations on both of them. And I'm not seeing any difference. What I would really want to try to see is if this would impact the screen flickering, because that would make sense for it to be fixed by that. I know screen brightness can also be impacted slightly by twisting the potentiometer. I'll just say that the potentiometers are a bit of an enigma to me, because I understand them in principle, but just the different problems that they fix is rather perplexing. No, it doesn't seem to be doing anything meaningful to the color, so I'll just sort of ignore it as such. There is a color difference. When I'm putting these consoles together, I try to get these two screens. I try to find two screens that are as close to color. Sometimes I nail it. Other times, it could just be because one screen is rather dramatically different than pretty much every other screen I have in stock, that I just have to pair it with the closest one I have. So this one, and it's gonna just really come down to how bothersome that is to people. If you notice it when you're just booting up and it bothers you the entire time, I get that. But just the way I select these screens, if they're this close, once you really start putting color and moving images, unless you're very sensitive, I really don't think... I know I would probably not even notice it after a while. Like, on the DSi that I keep, my sort of personal console, it even has yellowed edges on both displays, which is something I do note out, but once I start playing a game, I don't see them anymore. I would never even notice they're there until I reboot the console and see them there on the corner. It's like, oh yeah, this console has a little bit of yellowing on it. Anyway, I was getting a little sidetracked. So, console turns on, opens up, goes to the main menu, opens up the settings menu. Perfect. Next is tactile buttons. Now I use an R4 card with diagnosing software on it, which will basically just have the bottom screen corresponding buttons with a little bit of, with lights next to them. Every time you press the button, it lights up the light. I was just looking. There's a little bit of damage right there on the bezel. Guessing it may have taken a really hard impact with a stylus, I'm guessing. I don't think that's damage on the digitizer. I think that's a little bit of adhesive. There's like a little gummy thing right up there, right on the edge. I'll look at it after I do this. So what I do is just press the button several times, seeing if it misses any inputs, or if it feels weird. Face buttons I'm not worried about, they're almost always fine. It's the shoulder buttons that I need to be the most critical on, as they tend to be the problem children. So I sort of press the button from left to right at just kind of a steady pace to see if it matches up with me pressing. So far it is. I'll also try and do some like light inputs. Just what I need it to do is every time the button clicks, it respawns. That's really all I need it to do. Which the R button I'm pretty happy with. I'm definitely not as fast as clicking on my left hand, for it being a non-dominant hand. Okay. I'm pretty happy with both of those buttons. So after that is the touchscreen, which I use another piece of software for that just turns the bottom screen into a touchpad. Or a drawing pad, I should say. This is an OEM digitizer just because of how it feels. It's in really good shape. I wonder if I had a screen protector on it. So what I'll do is draw a perimeter. And it was able to do a full perimeter. What I'm looking for is if there's any dead zones that would make just kind of erratic inputs on these corners, and nothing in here would be detected. In this case, it looks like this digitizer it responds pretty much everywhere. I don't notice anything. No jagged inputs, nothing erratic. Cool. That little spot up there is kind of bothering me. I need to see if that's adhesive or if that's damaged. If it's damaged, that's kind of a interesting spot to have damage. As it is on the edge of the screen, it would kind of correspond with... Well, it would kind of correspond with the bezel damage if it was like something was dropped on it, sort of ricocheted off the bezel and hit the touchscreen digitizer, but... I'm not able to get it to come off. I think that is damage. That is this will be an interesting decision I need to make then. So it is on the very edge of the screen. And it is diffracting pixels. Wow, yeah. So, yeah. Because usually my sort of baseline level that a touchscreen needs to clear is, does it have any damage on it that would require, or that diffracts or distorts any pixels that it covers? Which that one does, but that is also on the very, very edge of the screen. Like, I'm talking like right hugging against that bezel, which when I have the console on, I don't know if the diffraction will come through on a camera, but we're talking about the edge, maybe 2 rows of pixels, or... Yeah, the edge 2 rows. Man, but I think the thing about it is, I wonder if this had a screen protector on it, and then somebody tried removing it. Maybe that's where that damage came from. That was not me. I would never remove it with something that would damage the plastic bezel like that. That would be like a metal pry tool, really. The digitizer is otherwise fine. It's OEM and it's in very good shape. And I think I might just let it pass because of that. And once I get it onto the market, I'll just see how it does. I'll just make a note. Upper left damage on digitizer. on Digi. Because I really don't want to throw away an otherwise perfectly good touchscreen. This is sort of the kind of hard decisions I have to make. Do I throw away a perfectly good OEM digitizer that put on what I believe to be a far less quality aftermarket digitizer just because it doesn't have that tiny bit of damage on it on the very corner of the display? If it was right in the center, yeah, that thing would be gone. Like that's unexcusable, but we're talking about the very edge. And once I put a screen protector on it, you won't be able to feel that on a stylus. Like right now, if I run my stylus across it, it does catch, like it gets stuck in it a little. But I just don't see any realistic means or realistic like scenarios where you would be touching the very edge of the touchscreen display, like right against like the top of the actual display. Like if it was a UI element, it would be probably a square that you would press. I'll mull on that. This is only the first round of testing, but I'll just keep that in mind. So next is the speaker, microphone, and headphone jack. I combo this with a test of the SD card slot. And this is testing exactly what it sounds like. So what I'll do is grab my earbuds as well. So I'll go into the DSI sounds. Test the microphone. So I'm changing the volume and it's being represented in software. Record. La 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 la. Now there is this like high-pitched squeal. That's interesting. Let me take it apart and maybe just clean that port. The actual plug for the microphone. There's just this like high-pitched squeal. I'm usually not too concerned about what the microphone actually sounds like as long as it works, but that's a lot more aggressive than what I'm usually used to seeing. Like it's not so much like a buzz or a hum. It's almost like a dog whistle type. Well, not that high. I don't think I can hear dog whistles, but kind of that same sort of like super high pitched just tone. And if that means I need to replace the microphone, I can. I don't necessarily like to do that when the console's already put together. Oh, I already did take that one out. I was really confused. I'm like, wait, did I really miss a screw? Okay. Wi-Fi. I don't know if cleaning will do anything. This might just be a microphone just needs to be replaced type of deal. Looks fine. This is just sort of a Hail Mary. I don't know if it'll work, but I might have to actually get it with a bristled brush. At worst, this does nothing. let's give this a try. See if that changes anything. I'm not going to put it back. I won't screw everything in yet. That already looks a lot better. Oh, no, there it is again. So there's just this, like, sort of that baseline input. It's automatically recording every single time. There we go. When I'm not actively recording, it is steady. Which is... No, okay, right there. I don't remember it being that bad. I usually kind of gloss over the actual microphone quality test as long as it's responding to the waveforms. I'm usually okay with that. I'll make a note and maybe have that assessment later of whether or not I deem that to be important enough to follow through with a replacement or just keep it as is and just say, well, buzz in microphone. I would have no problem replacing that if I need to. Okay, so let's just go ahead and move through with the other tests. Because if I have to replace the microphone, this won't impact these other tests. I may just kind of... Let's try that again. Alright, there it goes. So it loaded in the SD card, it reads it, sees the song, so now I'm going to listen out of both channels, plug in my earbuds, and listen to both channels. Alright. Both speakers worked, both microphone channels worked. So I'm going to go ahead and put this console back together. I'll sort of decide what I want to do about that microphone later. I think I will follow through with the OEM digitizer. I think it is far too... It's in amazing shape otherwise. I don't even think it has any noticeable scratches on it. Because my leading theory right now is it did have a screen protector on and somebody tried removing it violently, it would seem. Because I'm always really jazzed when I get a screen with a screen protector on, because I know that it will be in very good shape. And that I can reuse it. Where a lot of the times when they don't have a screen protector on them, they're usually far too damaged for me to use. The microphone, on the other hand, I don't exactly know what I want to do on that front. I think I'm going to have to just sort of focus my testing more on the microphone quality and see if that's sort of just a consistent thing across the DSi XL. If it's just, yeah, these microphones suck. Which, I know that there is some amount of humming and buzzing. That's just kind of how it is with these types of microphones. At least for what I'm familiar with, it's just there's always that amount of buzzing. Whether or not that degree of buzzing is a problem, I would really have to test it in-game. You know what? I think there might be a microphone test in that diagnosing software. Because my concern is not so much the quality. Like, it's never going to be good. I just don't want it to have a false input on a game. So if you have a game that requires you to blow into your microphone or issue commands even, I know there's a lot of games where you have to blow in the microphone to do a thing. Like in Zelda Spirit Tracks, I think, you play a pan flute. So it is light. So the microphone test, I think it is just taking the inputs. I think it's just lighting up that first green bar. I don't know if that's standard. That might just be fine. It is responding to my voice sometimes. I'm not really too big of a fan of this portion of the application as it's very unspecific, where the DSi Sound app will actually have the waveform of me speaking and just the degree of how I speak. I can kind of see that, yeah, the microphone's picking up my voice as I expect. So I'll keep an eye on this. It might just be a non-issue and just say, like, well, these microphones just suck. That's just how they are. There's nothing really I can do about it. I can't screw in a Blue Yeti or a high-end studio mic to make it sound good, because it just never will be. Anyway, I need to do or a pair of tests I only need to do once that kind of catch very oddball issues. First one is to check to see if the console will go into sleep. So I have a little magnet here. We'll place it right over where that little magnetic component is. That will put the console into sleep. Usually this is done by the speaker when you close the console. So both screens went out, and the power light is sort of breathing in and out. That tells me the console's in sleep. When I remove the magnet, it comes back on. Next is image retention. So I will sit on the DSi Sounds menu for roughly a minute, 2 minutes. And then I'll swap over to the DS settings menu. And what I'm looking for specifically is if this checkered pattern is visible in the DS settings menu, or especially these big buttons. That will tell me if the screens are retaining any image. I'm not entirely sure why it does that. Either it's a component level failure on the motherboard, or just these screens are just aged. Maybe the LCDs don't swap as fast anymore just because of how old they are. And they almost behave like an OLED burn-in, where you can see these elements on other screens that aren't supposed to have those elements. So I've caught it a couple times, so I know it's a thing. I'm just not entirely sure why or how I can fix it. I know I have a top and a bottom screen that both have image retention. I want to put together a sort of image retention display console just to say, like, well, this is what the problem looks like in actuality, or in real life. I'll let it sit here for a little bit. I'm going to put this in my note. Image retention. And sleep. And just basically, do I check it off or does it fail? If it fails, I need to replace the display. I usually don't test this when I'm sort of first assembling these consoles, which I probably should, because if a top screen fails this, then, well, I have to take the entire console apart. Not a biggie per se, it's just, it would be a little irritating to get it all nice and buttoned together only to have to completely rip the thing apart again. I'll grab a little sip of water, and that's been about 2 minutes. Alright, so I'll quickly go over to the DSi settings menu, see if any of those assets were retained. Okay, I don't see anything. So when I say it would be obvious, I do very much mean it would be obvious. Now, there is some shading on the left side of these buttons. I'm pretty sure that is normal. I've seen that on every console. But when I say you can see the DSI settings menu, you would see the DSI sound menu, you would see the two big buttons, you'd see the checkered pattern, especially in this gray background. Like, it would be very prominent. What I've been doing is doing soft resets. Sometimes you can make out the assets, like just for that split second you can see the DSI sounds menu. My best understanding is this test doesn't mean anything, but I do notice that sometimes images will be retained a little bit, like just during the soft resetting. And even now, I think it almost looks like it's getting harder and harder to see. Top screen, I don't see anything. My understanding is just if you see the image in a soft reset, that doesn't mean anything. I don't have enough information to say one way or the other. It could be a sign that they're beginning to start failing, but right now I don't have the information to say, like, is that an imminent failure, or is that 10 years down the line these displays will need to be changed? Which, as far as what I'm trying to operate with, I can't really account for that. So for now, though that is sort of an interesting thing I noticed between consoles, it doesn't mean anything. So for that test, it passes. So I only have to do that once, so I don't have to do that test like 5 times, because I fail to note it. Okay, so now with that out of the way, because that would have been rather annoying if either of those failed. Let's go on. So the next one is... So I did the speakers, microphone, and headphone jack. Next is cameras. Now, kind of similar to the microphone, I'm not really looking for quality, because these are not good quality cameras. It's just, do they initialize, and do they show an image? Yeah. I did have one where this little tiny lens had damage on it, so the picture wasn't good. It was like foggy. So I did swap that out at least, but I'm not looking for this to be like studio level quality. These are DSI cameras. So as long as they work and they do their job and capture a relatively clear image, again, relative to the DSI, I'm happy. Charge port. Now, I did not mean to turn that off. So let me plug in my little USB tester here. I'm going to grab the DSI end, plug it in. Be looking for a couple things here. Plugged in. Software indicator changed to say it's charging. Solid orange light. I'm getting an amp draw. Close the console and then just sort of jiggle this charge port around to see if I can get that light to turn off. Which it doesn't look like it. So that tells me that the charge port is good and that the solder joints for the charge port are also good. Because I can imagine a console with a charger in, sitting on a desk, being knocked off a desk and hitting the ground, charging first, snapping solder joints on the motherboard. Or just outright breaking the charge port. But in this case, we're all good there. Now we're on to the biggie. Game card slot. Now I have a nice, rather daunting pile of, I think I'm up to 20 game cards now, because I found a couple. Giant stack of just shovelware game cards, all in various conditions. And I'll kind of show what I do here. So I'll grab a game card. This is one I just recently super glued together because I pried it apart to try and make a game card slot cleaning rig, but it didn't really work. So I think it's more valuable for me to just have it as a game card than it is as a cleaning cart. Anyway, I'll grab the cart, insert it normally. It shows up. So then I'll put my fingers on the top of the card and shift it from side to side. There's a tiny bit of play in the game card slot. Basically looking, does that game card disconnect? So far, so good. Then I'll put pressure on it as I'm shifting it from side to side, all the way up until the game card hits that ejection point where you hear the click of the game card slot. So right there, it just clicked. And for fun, I keep going down until I actually bottom the card out in the game card slot to see, just trying as hard as I can within reason to get this thing to disconnect. Which so far, it read the entire way. I ejected it, so it obviously disappeared. Then what I'll do after that is open palm, slap the back of the console against my open palm to see if 1, the game card disappears, and if 2, the console shuts off because I dislodged the battery. Neither of which occurred. So that game card passes. And then I'll just do that with every single game card in this stack. Oh, it disappeared once, but I am bottoming out the game card, which I'll see if I can repeat it. And I can't seem to repeat it. That disconnect last time was because I ejected it. Ejected it right there. Okay, I can't get it to disconnect, so since I can't repeat it, I'm just going to dub that as a fluke. I will put it aside, but we'll put it in another pile here and just see if I can get that problem to surface on any other game card. So far, well, I guess I can't say so far, 1 card later, but ooh, my power's cycling. We got some good winds going around here, so that would not surprise me if it disconnected the internet. I'm just going to check that real quick. I still have my recording going natively, so that wouldn't be too much of a problem. Anyway, if it kills my power, I do have a battery backup, but that'll mean I'll have to just shut everything off for now. It might be sacrilege to call Nintendogs a shovelware game, but, well, I never played it. And it came to me free on a junk console, so that kind of says how much that game is respected in the community. Well, one perk is I know my UPS is working. Get my PC on just fine. I'll have to see if that registered as an event. Because I think it did pretty much cycle my power long enough to shut off my computer. If it was just plugged into the wall. Basically, 1 event per year validates my over $100 purchase. But with PC components kind of going crazy prices right now, especially RAM, I'm happy I don't have to worry about those things being fried by a surge. I think the power supply would probably take the brunt of it, but yeah, that's just not something I want to gamble with. So I can't seem to repeat the 1 game disconnecting, and kind of like what I was mentioning, it was disconnecting when I had it bottomed out in the game card slot, which bottoming out is past the ejection point. Which if you're actively playing your game and either the game card's being pushed into being bottomed out, or maybe you have your console in sleep in your backpack and the game card is pushed to past the point of ejection, the game card's coming out. Unless you know for a fact that it's past the ejection point and you can somehow take it out of your bag without the game card popping out. Which I find to be so highly unlikely that if the game card disconnects past the ejection point, that's almost like it doesn't matter. If it reads it all the way up until that ejection point, that's really all that matters to me. So even if you accidentally touch your game card or maybe even push it a little, it won't disconnect. And even some of my more difficult game cards, like Wonder Pets, that Caesar Milan game, can sometimes sort of pick out some issues with the game card slot, but right now you can tell my good to one fail, I wouldn't even call it a fail, but just one had problems, the rest are doing good. The average is telling me that this game card slot's fine. And this is me trying pretty much as hard as I can to get these game cards to disconnect. So let me try everything else passed. I'm going to try the Harry Potter game one more time to see if I can get it to disconnect. No, I can't repeat it past that one instance. So that's good. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to clean it anyway. I'm going to just do a cleaning pass on the game card slot. Ew. I didn't realize there's gross grody on the back of this game card. Nothing that transfers, it's all dry, crusty stuff, but still. Yummy. And there we go. Okay. So what I do for cleaning a game card slot is I'll take my little syringe of rubbing alcohol. This is 91%. It's probably best to use 99 for this, but my 99's a little buried. I'll drench the pins, shake it off, and then just put it inside the game card slot and just sort of take it in and out of the game card slot several times. The mechanism kind of locks up when putting in the rubbing alcohol, but once it dries, it behaves normally again. Just something about the moisture either the moisture or the alcohol itself kind of makes the game card slot. I think it just adds additional friction to the plastic back plate, so it kind of holds on to the game card a little more than it would usually, but I'm more wanting to rub the alcohol covered pins over the contacts themselves. Did that a few times. And then I'll want to let it dry completely before I do another game card slot test again. I usually like giving it a day or two. That's well more than enough time for 99 or 91% to dry. But just to be completely certain, because I've had cases, especially when cleaning shoulder buttons, where once the rubbing alcohol, as soon as I'm done with the cleaning, Even if I think I have them dried off, I try them like 10 minutes later and they're fine. But then the following day, either the problem reemerges or there's still an issue. Maybe it's better, but it's still an issue. So I like just giving it a good chunk of time just to make sure that it's in good shape. So for test 1, it passed every other parameter. The only other test I have left is Wi-Fi. And basically all I assume, or all I want in that case, is just, does the console connect to an access point? My home Wi-Fi is far too new for any of these DSIs to connect to. I have to connect it via hotspot on my phone, which I'm currently using as a camera. So I never had a console fail connecting to an access point. So I always leave that for the very last, after I do pretty much all the final assessments, just to double check that it actually can. So, that said, aside from 2 little quirks, I think I'm going to pass this one. The buzz in the mic, I don't know yet. I need to kind of think on that and test other consoles to see if that's a lot more of a thing. That just seemed strangely more apparent than other mics. Like I was saying, all the microphones in these consoles have some amount of buzz. That seemed a little more pronounced than usual. That could just be because I had the volume up higher, or maybe I'm just a little more sensitive to it this morning. I really can't say. But I'll definitely check it on the next console I do. But other than that, the console passed completely. If I do have to change the mic, that really does not impact any other test here. If it's a motherboard problem, though, that's when it gets a little more interesting. So, with that said, I passed this console. Let me throw that on the bottom of the stack and get another console going.